Silent giants challenge us. Trust in God and see them fall.
Every generation has its giants. Not always the kind with armor and weapons, but the kind that make your heart race. These are the problems that feel too big, the moments when fear feels louder than hope. As it is written in Psalm 56:3, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." This story begins in such a valley, but it could just as easily begin in your life today, where two armies stood facing each other. And every day a giant named Goliath stepped forward. As described in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 4, a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He was a warrior trained for battle since he was young, and every morning he shouted the same challenge, "Send someone to fight me!" No one moved. The soldiers were trained, armed, and experienced, yet fear held them in place. For the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion, as Proverbs 28:1 states. Because fear doesn't always come from being unprepared. Sometimes it comes from believing the odds are impossible. Then David arrived, a shepherd, the youngest son sent by his father to bring food to his brothers on the battlefield. While everyone else saw danger, David heard something different. A voice defying God, and he asked, "Why is everyone letting this man speak like that?" Fear had become normal. Intimidation had become routine. But David didn't see a giant. He saw someone standing against God, as it is written in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 26. "Who is this man," David asked, "that he defies the armies of the living God?" While others saw danger, David saw divine justice waiting to be defended. When David said he would fight Goliath, people laughed. His brothers criticized him, the soldiers doubted him, and even the king questioned him. David was already facing a battle long before he ever stepped into the valley. The battle of being misunderstood, underestimated, and dismissed by the very people who knew him best. "You're just a boy," they said. "He's been a warrior his whole life," echoing 1 Samuel 17:33. "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." David didn't argue with anger or boast. He simply told his story, speaking of lions and bears and moments when no one was watching. He said, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine," as found in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 37. That's where courage really begins, not on the battlefield, but in the unseen moments before it. Because courage isn't pretending you're not afraid, it's remembering who's been with you before. And that's where the story pauses, right before faith steps into the valley. The pause matters because before faith ever moves forward, it remembers. David wasn't standing in the valley thinking about how small he was. He was thinking about how faithful God had already been. The lion, the bear, the quiet victories no one applauded. Those moments built something inside him long before anyone saw it. And now, standing face to face with a giant, David wasn't guessing what God might do. He was trusting what God had already done. And with that memory steadying his heart, David took his first step forward. David stepped into the valley without armor, no sword, no shield, just a sling and a confidence that didn't come from himself. When Goliath saw David, he laughed, saying, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" As recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 43. The giant trusted his size, his weapons, his reputation. But David trusted in God. He said, You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." From 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. This wasn't arrogance. It was clarity. David knew the battle wasn't really about strength. It was about trust. As Goliath charged forward, David ran toward him, not away, but forward, as 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 48 describes. One stone, one moment. Pause for a moment. Before David ever picked up a stone, there was already a battle being fought, not in the valley, but in his heart. Because every giant asks a question. Will you trust God enough to move, even when the outcome isn't clear? Today, our giants don't always wear armor. They look like fear, uncertainty, or decision we've been avoiding. We measure the risk. We replay the worst-case scenario. And just like the crowd that day, we forget who stands with us. But faith was never about having all the answers. It was about trusting God enough to take the next step. And when David stepped forward in trust, the battle was already decided. The giant fell, and suddenly the thing everyone feared was defeated. The valley that once held fear now held victory. The army that froze now moved forward as the Philistines fled in terror. But here's the part people often miss. David didn't win because he was fearless. He won because he refused to let fear decide the story. Today, your giant may not look like Goliath. It might be anxiety, a diagnosis, a financial wall, or a calling that feels bigger than you. Maybe it's something you've been carrying quietly, a fear you haven't named, a step you've been praying about. And like David, you might feel unqualified. But faith doesn't ask, "Am I strong enough?" It asks, "Who am I trusting?" God may not remove the giant instantly, but He strengthens those willing to trust Him enough to move. Giants fall, not when we feel ready, but when we step forward anyway. For I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, as Philippians 4:13 declares. The size of the obstacle has never mattered as much as the strength of the trust behind the step. And that truth still stands today. Faith doesn't shrink the giant. It magnifies God. And often, one obedient step is all it takes for the impossible to fall.